So welcome back to episode 8 of the Kickback with Jack podcast. Today I'm joined by former DFC featherweight champion John Loughhead. Welcome to the show, Matt.
How's it going?
Yeah, good, mate. Going well. So coming off a big win last weekend, talk to me a little bit about it. You know, who were you fighting and how'd you go?
I was fighting a guy named Loughhead, fighting out of Trinity in Adelaide. So this is coming off a bit of time off due to injury. So I was probably hadn't fought for over a year. Did a jiu-jitsu comp, but wasn't really too motivated by the jiu-jitsu itself. And then, this one got offered at the start of the year, and I said, hell yeah, get me back in there.
Mm-hmm. And what was the injury? I saw, you said you were off for a while. What did you end up doing?
Broke my hand when I was fighting in New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
Broke the saddle joint in my thumb, and that was a pretty lengthy recovery, probably over 6 months until having full mobility back in it. And having the confidence was even longer because just throwing punches and stuff, you start to feel it. And, now I've got bolts and this and that in there. So, not wanting to re-screw it up and, not have use of your thumb.
And how'd you actually do it in the fight?
Throwing a hook, I'm pretty sure.
Mm-hmm.
So swung around and guy lifted his elbow up, I think, to protect his head, and it landed square in the elbow of a block. So, and in at the Gamma in New Zealand, they didn't have proper hand wraps there, so I was just wrapped up with typical wraps.
So they didn't plaster your hands or anything before?
Yeah, no. So no professional wraps. So I was just free balling it, and that happened. Took the glove off, and my thumb was looking funny. So.
And after a year off, how were you feeling getting back into it? Was there any nerves or?
No, it felt good jumping back in there. It was also 7 years since my first fight weekend, so it was sort of good to look back at the fights I've had, and sort of be happy that I'm still going with it. Didn't give up, and nerve wise, there definitely was nerves, but on fight days, I just put that the nerves into action and make sure I stay warm and ready.
And was that your 10th fight or 11th fight or?
11th.
Yeah, so you've been doing it for a while. So talk to me a little bit about how you first got into MMA.
First got into it, I was playing footy around 14, 15, and then sort of got sick of it because our team kept losing. And the attitudes that people would sort of bring back to the training was, we're going to lose anyway, so why are we even, training hard if we're going to lose anyway? I'm like, you probably got a point, but if we train hard, we might win. There's always that option. And I wanted to get a punching bag, I think it was for a birthday, and the guy behind the counter handed me the business card to Mildura Martial Arts, and the rest is history. So started training around 14 years old. And I just did jiu-jitsu to begin with. And got my blue belt at 16, competed a lot from 16 to 18, and then that's when the MMA really took my interest, and found it was very motivating. Once, if you got booked in for a fight, you're training extra hard.
And it's an interesting point as well, like you were saying you played footy beforehand. It's obviously like a team sport, right? And you were getting shitty because people weren't trying. Is that what you like about MMA? The fact that it's just you, if you don't train hard, the results fall on you.
Yeah, 100%. It's the results scale directly with the work you put in. Like, you win fights before the fight with the work you put in at the gym on your own, going for those runs, going for, taking care of yourself in total. Like, that's where you win the fight. But relying on the team, there's still definitely a team aspect to MMA. Your training partners, looking out for each other, being there for each other. But, your results do sit on your shoulders.
And you... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was going to say, Matt, like having all that time off, was there any point where you were like, oh, I don't know if I want to come back? Or was it always in your head, like, as soon as this is healed, I'm coming straight back?
Yeah, 100%. Like during it, because there's also, you watch a CTE documentary and you're like, oh shit, is this going well for me? You come off because I was also two losses to Jet Fisher, which
Mm.
sucked. I didn't get banged around in those fights, but they were both chokes. So um, definitely have had those discussions like with people. If it you're either in or you're out, and there are the fear of head injury in the long term that is a serious thing, and you do have those like, should I keep going or should I slip into comfy life and you know get three dogs and that? But there's just something so exciting about MMA, and it's what I love doing. So why would I give that up?
And is there any way that you try to mediate that? Like, obviously, every fighter is concerned about the CTE issue. Is there any way that you try to, mitigate the risk of that?
Yeah, um, you know, being smart and sparring. Like we do a lot of body sparring over, just swinging for the head. Um, coach has also got a iron neck at training now, so he's
Mm.
splashed out and bought one of those. So we're doing a routine on there to strengthen up the neck, which also reduces your risk of concussion. So some things that we're putting in place to make sure we're not scrambling our brains too quick.
And with the time off with the broken hand, like, were you still finding ways to train around that hand, or was it kind of just a rest period for you?
Um, like I was still staying active, not putting on heaps of weight or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Training wise, I as soon as I could, probably after a couple of months, I got into the lifting again, but I couldn't hold anything with my hand for a while.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I was staying active, and then as soon as I could, I would strap it up and do jiu-jitsu. And coming off the two submission losses, um, I really just focused in on my jiu-jitsu. And I
I
was
was
like,
going to
yeah.
say that was pretty evident in your last fight. Like, you put on a bit of a grappling clinic against the guy. So was that the game plan going in?
Uh, well, my game plan going into it was like keep range and fire off shots. Um, don't take him down basically, and just accumulate damage
Mm.
because I had the reach advantage. But I know this guy has really good submissions as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've had people say, "Oh, I can watch out for his triangle. His triangle is really good," and shit like that. And he's won by ninja choke, like guillotine.
Yeah, well,
So the rule in my head was, if I get him to the cage, I just don't put my head below his armpits.
mm-hmm.
I was like, if I can follow that rule, I can do takedowns with body locks and things like that. So that was my game plan, and funnily enough, found he flurried me, so I couldn't really keep my stick and move game plan. That was out the window. So
Mm.
he, yeah, he threw a really good flurry at the start, but I look up and his back's against the wall. I'm like, okay, it's happened here. I
Yeah.
guess we're on the cage now.
Well, I
But yeah,
reckon
a
you
lot
would
of
have walked away with
takedown
that length as
training.
well. He,
So,
your leg kicks as well were a big part of the fight. I reckon you landed about 50 on the guy.
yeah,
We, yeah. How were your legs feeling after, and how do you reckon his were feeling after?
yeah, my legs were fine afterwards. I had a banged up shin from training like to begin with, but those things just come and go as they do. But his leg, yeah, not too sure.
Yeah,
Definitely some heavy ones in there, and I love not wearing shin guards, so
yeah,
uh, yeah, they felt good.
yeah. How did you find that transition from? Because I know now, like, I live in Queensland now, and they don't wear shin guards at all. Like, even amateurs don't
Mm.
wear shin guards. So when you obviously had an amateur career, now you're pro. So how did you find the transition from shin guards to no shin guards?
Not pro just yet.
Oh, you're
This
not.
is
Oh,
South
sorry.
Australia.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
they do no shin guards. Victoria is shin guards for
Oh, that's
amateurs
right.
still.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
looking at pro on the horizon.
yeah, right. Well, that sort of leads on nicely to my next question, which is like, what do you see the future in MMA being? Like, what are you looking for?
I definitely want to go pro. There's probably another fight in the amateur, like on the table. Maybe win uh, the title back.
Mm-hmm.
which this last fight I won was sort of a stepping stone back to being the title holder.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also getting to the point I'm getting old, and I probably should go pro sooner than later to
Mm-hmm.
get up in the big leagues.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's good. And so, who currently holds the belt at the moment at featherweight?
It was the fight after mine on the weekend, and it is Antonio Cesaro. I'm pretty sure he took it off Jed Dale, who I was booked in to fight last year after recovering from my hand injury and my nose got broken just leading up to the fight. So
Yeah.
that had to get cancelled, and that's when I relinquished the belt because I was like, I've been injured for too long and pulling out. No, take it, fight for it.
Mm.
And yeah, he just got beat this past weekend by the bantamweight champion.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the bantamweight champion stepped up and
Mm-hmm.
took it off him.
So, do you keep a close eye on who's holding the belt at the time and start sort of game planning in your head about how you beat him when you get there?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, always watching. Yeah.
So, what? So, the transition from amateur to pro, what would be the biggest changes?
Incorporating more like elbows. That would probably be the main one that I don't work as much. Knees, I've got no problem with knees. I can throw knees like pretty naturally. It feels like.
You've got a knockout finish from knees, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were allowed knees to the head for the title fights in
Mm-hmm.
amateur, and yeah, that's where the second the belt defense was the knockout knee to the head,
Mm-hmm.
which
That's
was
good.
great, and sort of looking forward to being able to use knees. Yeah.
I guess elbows as well sort of is going to play into your name steak knife, I reckon.
Yeah,
You
hundred
start putting
percent.
those long limbs to use.
Yeah, 100%. The bony fucking elbows. Let's
So
go.
what was the origin of that name?
Um, Michael Burton at training uh, was commenting on how sharp my shins were, and said they're like steak knives, and sort of just stuck there. Yeah,
No, that's
and I'm
good.
like, yeah,
So
I'll take it. And I was like, that's
it's a
pretty
hard
tough.
name.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a hard
yeah.
name for sure.
It's
So
great, and
what's
I
the
eat steak every night too, so fucking works well. Yeah.
yeah, good proteins. So
Hmm?
when's your next fight? You looking to get a few in this year or?
Nothing confirmed just yet, but yeah, looking to get a few in this year. Well, I'm hoping for June 22nd, another diamond back, hopefully fighting for the title.
Hmm.
And then, yeah, look for maybe a pro matchup after that.
And would you ever look to go like other promotions, or are you typically staying with Diamondback?
I'm happy to go any promotions. I've done demolition as well, but I think just with who coach talks to, the matchmakers, you know, we're just in the loop with these shows, so
Mm.
makes it easy.
Yeah, definitely. And being based in Mildura, sort of like being halfway between Victoria and halfway between South Australia, is there any sort of challenges that come with fighting MMA out of a regional area?
The car trip while cutting weight sucks, and
Yeah.
it's two. It's both Melbourne and Adelaide are still drivable distances,
Mm.
so it is you can't just fly across in half an hour and justify that.
Mm.
But yeah, I'd say that's probably the most annoying part,
What
and
about
probably cross training as well, like not
mm,
get having the other gyms around.
yeah? Do you
That
ever
would,
travel at all for sparring or?
yeah, yeah. Probably gonna book in something soon for maybe next month and go across to Adelaide and train with some gyms there.
No, that's awesome. And do you think you're going to keep competing in jiu-jitsu, or do you think you're going to purely stick with MMA now? Because you're a brown belt, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I was thinking about this. Would compete, but it just doesn't excite me the same way MMA does.
Mm.
So I competed last year, and I didn't do the greatest because I wasn't that locked in.
Mm.
Like, if I'm gonna put my ass on the line and go against these guys that are slapping you on the head, I'm like, this is just annoying. Like, I
Yeah.
want to hit him.
What about combat jiu-jitsu? Would you ever do that?
Ooh, don't know about that. I find combat jiu-jitsu can be more brutal than MMA.
Because of the no glove situation?
Yeah, 100%. Just the palm strikes raining from above.
Yeah.
Like, they're fucking not to be messed with. Lewis, after his combat cage jiu-jitsu, was fucking banged up.
Yeah, yeah. I
Like,
was talking to him about that, and I was just like, yeah, that's crazy. I don't know if I'd do that. Like the
yeah.
pony. Yeah,
So I don't know. I don't think I would do that just for that
yeah,
reason. But super fights and stuff.
yeah.
But also, I don't. Jiu-jitsu's just gotten so fucking technical that it's really you've got to keep up with the leg locking. Like I got put in a heel hook at the last comp I went to, and which was like I sort of know how to get out of it, but at the same time, I don't want fucking another year off training just because this guy wants to fucking rip my leg off. So I just tapped and was like, yeah, not worth the smoke, man. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. And I guess as well, like, how different is MMA grappling as opposed to just pure jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, definitely different. Like MMA, it's a big focus on that top control position.
Mm-hmm.
You won't find yourself pulling guard in an MMA fight,
Mm.
which you see, is a very popular move now in jiu-jitsu instead of going for the takedown where you can put yourself in a dangerous position.
Mm-hmm.
But in MMA, especially the use of the cage, like the cage is a big tool and part of MMA, and it's not
Mm.
going anywhere. So training specifically for MMA grappling, it's definitely different.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. I feel like wall wrestling and cage wrestling is almost like a different martial arts entirely. Like it's just kind of a mix of everything.
Yeah, 100%.
So, what do you prefer now? Would you say you're more of a striker or a grappler?
Um, I guess I sort of hate that question. It's like, I'll do both. I like
Mm.
striking in the sense, but I know I'm not like fucking classically trained in boxing or kickboxing for that matter. I've got sort of my own style that I like to use. I like sort of using the violent, style knees and clinch and short punches, long punches. But then if you've got a solid grappling base, you can lean on it and rely on it as well. So
Mm. Yeah, but it's almost in a way like having a traditional like boxing style or kickboxing style coming into MMA is almost detrimental sometimes, I think. Like because well that's what I felt anyway, like coming in from boxing, it's just like my
yeah,
leg was getting chopped, I was getting taken down every time I tried to like
yeah,
like that. Whereas that like sort of middle ground stuff just seems to be way more effective in like an actual fight.
yeah. True. Good
Yeah.
point. Very good point.
So would you ever do a kickboxing match or a Thai match or anything like that? Obviously with your knees.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I see Lewis over in Thailand at the moment doing Bangla Stadium Muay Thai. I'm like, fuck, that'd be fun. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be so much fun.
mm,
So yeah,
just
I
train
guess
hard.
yeah, yeah. How does it feel to be back and everything after that time?
Yeah, awesome. Back on the fucking horse. So
Yeah.
keep it going from here and keep the momentum moving. No fucking days off.
Yeah, you said you were coming off two losses. How does that sort of affect you? Obviously, you've come back and you've got this big win now. Does that, I don't know, does it kill your confidence at all? Or did it kill your confidence at all?
It killed my grappling confidence. Yeah,
Yeah.
I felt like a shit grappler after that because he did the same thing twice. You
Mm.
know, so I adjusted my game plan, but he still managed to get the takedown and fucking the choke, and just so yeah, that definitely uh, locked me into focusing on my wrestling and my grappling. But coming off two losses, it's sort of I did have the thought that if I lose this, that would suck.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, it's like is what it is. Because that would also put my win loss into the negatives, and no one likes a negative KD. So
Well, do you think, I've heard people say that amateurs, it's not really about winning or losing, it's more about getting experience for the pros. Like, is that something that you agree with?
yeah, I would say so. Well, it's hard to say because they're giving out titles for amateur fights too.
Mm.
So there is this sort of, it's a league in itself, the amateur league. There's still rankings. There's still big, exciting fights that get put on with the amateurs. If you're, watching, it's like college football versus the, nation football
Mm.
in America. But yeah, I'd say experience is number one. Like if you're getting that, I got told by a couple people after the fight that I didn't look like an amateur, and it's
Mm.
probably time to, you know, fucking move on.
Yeah,
Which
that's
I
good.
agree with. I've
Yeah,
had 11 fights as an amateur probably is more than enough.
yeah. What do people typically have in amateur MMA?
What's that?
What do people typically have in amateur MMA? Like, how many fights is sort of standard before you go pro?
Um, Probably like around the 5 to 10 wins, like that sort of category. But then again, I've seen people go pro with like 2 wins and 5 losses that are just, might
Yeah,
get a lucky streak is when they go pro. But I've seen an amateur with like fucking 20 fights under their belt. Like,
yeah. Wow.
I don't think there's any real cap. It's sort of just when the time's right and you want to step up.
Yeah, well, it's so different to boxing because you look at amateur boxers and they've had like 40 fights before they go pro. So I always find it super interesting in MMA how it's less. But I guess, you can't fight MMA every weekend. Like the damage on your body
Yeah,
is way too much, right?
yeah. Well, I guess so, but boxing's probably comparable in a lot of ways.
Probably head damage would be worse than boxing, I'd imagine. But
Yeah, but the biggest killer is just injuries. You know, like yeah, you can get a concussion and you got 3 months off from competing. But if you fucking break a bone or something, it also is a killer to the confidence as well.
well, at the moment, I'm dealing with like a bulge in my spine. So I was going to ask you, what sort of ways do you try to stay positive when you've got an injury?
Um,
If you had any advice.
just fucking spend time with the missus, you know. Yeah,
Yeah.
they'll love you for it.
Yeah.
Want you to get injured more often. Yeah,
Yeah, she's fighting more than me at the moment. She fought last night.
yeah, I see that. Yeah,
Yeah,
congrats to her. Yeah,
she's doing really well. No,
yeah,
that's good,
well, that's
mate.
awesome. But yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, she probably you stay at home and she'll go training, mix it up.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. And you fought, I was saying before how, MMA fighters don't fight as much, but you fought a tournament, didn't you?
Yeah,
In
that was
Europe?
in New
Yeah.
Zealand. I didn't
What
realize
was
it was
that
going to
like?
get put on the fight record. I didn't realize it was going on there.
Mm.
It was good. It was in Manawatu, which is like South Auckland.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, we fly in. I did it with Aiden Russell.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Flew in. It was pretty awesome. They put on like a opening ceremony and stuff, and had the head of Gamma talk and put on a show, and then the, everyone weighed in on the first day, and we got told there was going to be all hydration testing and stuff, so no weight cutting was allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think I weighed in the 71 kilo division, but there was guys obviously weight cutting.
Mm.
Um,
And
you
what do
know,
you typically
looking
fight at? What weight's that you
66.
are? 66. Wow, okay.
Yeah. So I was just like walk around weight, bit of, you know, bit of trim. Yeah, did that. Weighed in. Uh, Slept in a fucking motel, and then yeah, the next day fought a guy who was a kickboxing champion
Mm.
in New Zealand, Tessifay, and it was in a ring as well for MMA, which was really weird.
Mm.
So first time fighting MMA in a boxing ring.
What was that like?
Bad, not good.
Yeah, I can imagine. What
dude,
sort of, yeah, I was going to say, like, what challenges is there from fighting in a boxing ring?
dude, I landed like 3 or 4 takedowns, and they just stick their like legs out the side of the ring, and they stand you back up.
Oh, that's
Not
so
even in
brutal.
like an advantage position. The guy was just like, "All right, back up," and I'm like, "Fucking now, it's got." You put all this effort in to landing like a nice throw or something, and then they
Yeah.
just stand you back up, and you're like, "Fuck's sake." Pretty sure I got one throw, and his legs like went over like the what are they called, the ropes?
The roast, yeah.
Yeah, and like they were just like, get, and I had to back off and let him stand back up, and I'm like, dude, this fight would be over.
Yeah.
But
And as like a kickboxer as well, you'd be like, get this guy on the ground as soon as
yeah,
possible.
don't want fucking this smoke. I had this New Zealand guy come up to me. He's like, "Oh, are you John?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, you're fighting Tissafay. He's gonna fucking smash you, bro." And I was like, "What?" Like
Jeez.
Eshe looking New Zealander. I'm like, what the fuck?
And then
Like,
what
yeah,
happened?
yeah,
Did he
yeah. I
smash it?
just took it. No, hell no.
Yeah,
Took
you
him
smashed
down
him, right?
and was sitting in mount at the end of it, just punching away. Didn't get the finish, but yeah, he didn't know much grappling, so
Yeah.
it's a bit unfortunate. And I'm pretty sure he thought it was a striking event too. So
Oh,
yeah, bit
yeah,
unlucky. So
that's so rough.
yeah, poor fella. But then I fought the second, so the next day fought Brandon White, who was at the time the lightweight uh, title holder at Diamondback.
Hmm.
So he was the weight division above champion. So I thought, oh, this is interesting, and was having a good fight. Was fighting like quite well in the first. In the second, we were getting into it. I broke my hand in the second round, and I think he could sort of tell like I stopped jabbing, and was shut down a bit. Like, ah, fuck, like this isn't good. And he capitalized on it straight away, landed the hardest hit I've ever been hit with,
Mm,
and fucking, I was just took a knee and was like, nah, fucking, boom, I'm done. Yeah,
yeah.
he finished me. Got a TKO.
Mm. Yeah, fighting without your jab though is just it's impossible. Like you can't
Yeah,
set anything up. It's just like you're probably better off breaking your rear hand than you are breaking your lead hand.
yeah. I went straight into my head when it happened. I was just like, yeah, fuck. And then he sort of noticed that I wasn't aggressing anymore.
Mm.
So, you take a couple back steps and, you know, touch your glove and you go, what the fuck? And then, poof. And he was a fucking strong dude too. So,
Yeah, I mean, especially if
yeah,
he's a weight class above you. So
yeah, champion. Um, but yeah, all good people over there.
yeah, all learning experiences.
Yeah, so ended up coming third. So he ended up getting injured in that fight as well, and
Mm.
didn't end up going to the finalist, who was Kevin Kaufman,
Hmm.
who is a doing really well as a pro at the moment.
That's awesome. Well, is there anyone that you'd be interested in fighting coming up? Like, is there anyone that you sort of got your eye on and not like a beef thing, but like, oh, this would be an interesting fight or this would be a fun fight?
I'd say Antonio. I like his striking style, like very quick, very dynamic, but also has solid jits. Like I've seen him compete before, and he's got both the bantamweight and the featherweight belt. So I got to get one of them off him.
Which would you prefer?
The featherweight,
Yeah, same having a
less weight to
silverweight.
cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll have to cut the carbs for that.
Mm. And how do you go with weight cutting? Because you're pretty tall for your division, right?
Yeah, I've definitely got a bit of reach, but as far as weight cutting goes, um, I lose the weight pretty easily by the end of it. It definitely drains me doing the water weight part of it,
Mm.
but yeah, other than that, it's not really. I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to eating and you know, in black coffee and things like that. So going to bantamweight would just be more discipline and more black coffee instead of food. Yeah.
And how do you go when you're like not in camp? Are you still eating relatively healthy, or do you get heavy between fights? Or
I give myself like 1 or 2 weeks where we can bust out the oil and deep fry some chips and,
yeah,
have a good time. But then as soon as that next fight, is locked in or whatever, it's, locked in mode.
mm.
But I give myself a little time, get to drink some beers and do all that because you do sacrifice a lot getting ready for a fight. Like a lot of the social aspects and the, Mrs. We used to love going for wines and shit, and you just say goodbye to all that when you're weight cutting and getting prepared.
You think it's worth it though in the end when you get that win, like that feeling?
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, Sophie agrees with it as well.
Mm.
It's a good time, and it also keeps me healthy. I could imagine if I stopped, I'd probably fall into the couch and you know I know how lazy I can be.
Mm.
I don't need to give myself nothing to do, or else I will be.
Yeah, no, definitely.